Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, 25th of May, 8 o'clock London time. We're going to do our regular current market analysis. Those of you who've been here before, you'll know I just have to run through a couple of slides first, just to make sure we're on the right path. The risk disclaimer is important, it's mandatory. Everybody should know that trading is risky and should understand how and what they are doing. Very brief introduction about myself. I'm head of trader education. Lots of years of experience in trading futures, bonds, commodities, forex, anything basically that moves up and down, using technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and algo trading. I provide education and I do mentor selected students to help them on their trading journey. Quick agenda, obviously just on the introduction, we can do a bit of market analysis. I do encourage any of you who are interested in me looking at charts specific to yourself, please do so. We're also going to have a look at upcoming news reports. It's unemployment at 1:30 UK time in the States. And we're also going to look for some trade setups using the ZenFinex Plus tools and how to access these free tools a bit later on. But I really want to kind of jump straight into charts, if you don't mind, and take a look at a couple of things that I've been looking at myself. So the first thing I want to cover is I actually have a live trade on gold at the moment. I took this on in our live trading room, which if anybody's interested in joining that, please do email me. I'll give you the email a bit later on. But we do the same kind of analysis, and I'll show you how I came up with this particular trade and what I expect to happen. And then we'll look at, FTSE dropped at open. It just opened a few minutes ago. So we're seeing weakness, generally speaking, across a lot of the indices. We saw a lot of red yesterday in the American markets, with probably the exception of NASDAQ. We'll talk about NVIDIA maybe a little bit later on when I've got some time. But I really want to stick to the kind of formula that I have, which is a top-down approach in looking at anything that you might be trading, whether it's currencies, commodities, anything really with charts. So I'll leave this chart on for a second because a few days ago, I think it was last week, we set this up and we looked at where markets may turn and how that is influencing my running trade. So let's get rid of everything first. And I'll start again with the top-down approach, because it's the same thing I do every single time I look at a chart. And what that does, for those of you, I would definitely encourage you to get into a habit of doing that, because when you're looking at charts and you're trading a particular time frame, sometimes you lose sight of the bigger picture. And what you really want to try to do is always have an eye on the bigger picture. I've been banging on about this triple top in gold for some time. So let's just do that top-down approach. So let's go right to the top of these important prices, because gold has struggled 3 times since sort of 2019, basically. Hit it just a few weeks ago and has retreated from that high. So let's just draw some lines up on important levels. Remember, I start with a weekly, I go down to the daily, and it only takes a few minutes, but what it does, it gives us perspective. So let's just magnify the daily a little bit, because we want to start seeing what levels are important to us, particularly when we have some trades on. So I can see here, there's an important level here. Why is that important? Because this resistance came off, came back to a weekly level of support, broke through, but came back and kissed this 1939 level. And that will be important to us in a short while when I show you how I came up with this gold trade and how we're going to manage it. I've got no target at the moment, and I'll explain how I'll develop where I believe gold will, where I'm happy to take my exit. The factors that I'm also going to be considering from a fundamental perspective is that we've got a couple of things going on with the US debt ceiling. Everybody's talking about it, nothing, news breaking. They'll probably come up with some sort of agreement, whether it's June the 1st or whether a couple of weeks afterwards. So until that time, I think there's going to be a bit of sort of sideways action and maybe some sharp moves, once that news and once that agreement for the debt ceiling has been agreed. We've got some news coming out later on today, 1:30 UK time, which also may move the markets. And I'm going to go to the Zenfinex tools and show you how previous similar news events affected markets. So I'm going to, use that also as seeing how price may react, to that news at 1:30. So how did we come up with this idea? So we drew a number of levels. So let's continue with our top-down approach. So we've got the daily levels in. I've got another daily level here, which I want to be caring about. And then we'll go down to the 4-hourly. And from a 4-hourly perspective, we just squeeze this up a little bit. We were noting a couple of weeks ago when I started doing these webinars for you. Let's see if I can draw. And if you go to the previous webinars, you'll see this same level that I was looking out for. And this level here is extremely important because it's consolidation over quite some period of time. It broke out. Let me just make sure you can see that clearly. Broke out, and in fact, let me just extend that a little bit more because the principles that I use are the same. Consolidation, really tough to get a trade in from a sort of short-term, longer term perspective. It broke out, retested, hit the triple top, immediately retreated, created some consolidation here, came back into this this zone, which had been developed over some period of time. And if I continue this level here, just try to make it a little bit more accurate, kept bouncing, but every time it bounced off this consolidation level, it couldn't get higher than the previous. And that's when we started developing the idea of a channel going downwards. So let's see if I can redraw this channel. And those of you who will watch my previous videos, you'll see these are the same levels that I used then. In fact, let me make this orange because I think you'll recognize it from, so it looks similar to, when you look back at the previous consolidation zone, break out of the consolidation, hit a new high, retreated back into the zone, tried to get higher than this level here, couldn't. First sign of weakness. And every time it tried to get higher, it couldn't. And that's when we started developing the idea that we really want to see how we can get into this particular trade from a selling perspective. And I think what I did, and I'd have to check myself, that it moved down and we didn't want to chase, the fast move. We wanted to wait till it pulled back. And I think I picked a level. In fact, it must have been around here that I took this trade. So we took the trade here, came down and kind of been wobbling around. And now we're stuck at a new level. And this is important for us because we're in profit at the moment. And it's finding that it doesn't really, at this moment in time, if I go down to a smaller time perspective, it doesn't want to get below this level of support. And now I've gone right down to the hourly. So you can see how I've come from weekly, daily, 4-hourly, and now I'm drilling down. And because I've done that, my trade idea has really been built up from a longer term perspective. And the fact that, the levels are important. I'm also going to make sure that I put my fib levels in, because I'm pretty sure we were also using fibs. Unfortunately, I removed the lines, but we can see here there is a fib level around here, and that's where I put my stop loss. So I put my stop loss really just, hopefully you can see it, just above these two peaks here. Now, it is important that you do have a stop loss, because if I'm wrong and the market suddenly moves sharply against me, I'm protecting my capital. I'm prepared to, if I'm wrong, if it gets to this point here, that that I'll be wrong and then I will take a loss. But right now, I'm going to be really watching this around 130 to see if this level. So this has had 3 goes at it. 1, 2. Now we're at the 3rd point here. It hasn't been able to get below it. And if I magnify this a little bit more, so you can really start drilling down and seeing what I'm looking at. So what are we seeing here? So price is poked down, so we know underneath here there will be some orders. Let's put a little marker here. So I know there is either the shorts below here. So let's just walk through my thinking. So those who took the short, thinking that the breakout of this consolidation area was going to continue going down, we waited for the pullback, and with the view that once markets or price retests the consolidation zone, it will test it maybe 1 or twice, maybe 3 times before it continues in the direction of the breakout. And the breakout is on the downside, right? So let me just make sure. By the way, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'll make sure I don't keep just talking without answering questions. So we know this level here is important. Not only was it important a couple of days ago, it's still important because that level has not been broken. So whilst my belief is it's going to come down to here, I'll be looking to see any price action that indicates that this is a stronger level. And already, we're not quite there yet. Is it going to test it? Or is it going to stay above there and then head back towards my entry price? My entry price is here, just in case you can't see it. So we literally took it on the bottom of the consolidation, this big thing that I drew here. And we're looking for it from a longer term perspective to really come down. So, the idea, break out of the consolidation on the downside, a downward channel, and we're looking really at these levels here. What are these levels here? We've just drawn them a few minutes ago, which is this important level we spotted. So really, I'm really looking to see if I can, what I may do is put a break even when we sort of hit this level here. At the moment, I'm content with leaving my risk above these 2 lines here, which is around sort of 1987. Sorry, my stop loss is at 1987. Yeah, okay, so it's 1988. That's fine. If it gets stopped out, I'm okay with it. But I think this downward channel, the breakout of the downward consolidation, and the levels that it may come to certainly reach is this level here, which is at 1939, 1940. So what may happen is that at news time, there'll be a bit of jiggling around, and it will either obviously go up depending on the news or go down. I'm obviously expecting it to come down. And, what is supporting, my reasoning just not to bank this profit as we got it here, whilst it's tempting, it's not, because once you risk a certain amount of capital, you want to maximize its return. You don't want to just be scalping or taking from, and I'll step 1 back. This is how I trade. Everybody trades slightly different. And, objectives and all this kind of stuff, really dependent upon your own trading style. But for me, I think after such a long period of time in this area here, and the fact that it retreated from here, for me, means there's going to be some weakness in gold, subject to employment news, subject to the debt ceiling, which hopefully will be sort of out of our traders' perspective, within the next sort of 10 days or so, 5 or 6 days, when effectively it has to be done by. But I believe that there's usually an extension of a couple of weeks. So this is going to be much more of a political, much more fundamental question than my sort of perspective here. But I see weakness here. And I think I did a further. Yeah, so there's another level which, it could come down to. So as I said here, I'm expecting it to come down to around this level here, bottom of the channel, and some price action which will indicate to me that it could come and retest this. So I'm going to watch how this goes. Those of you who are sort of interested in joining the trading room, please join us, and then we'll look at these setups on a daily basis and take live trades if and when they appear. Okay, so that's enough about the gold. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I'll continue. Although I'm bearish sort of on the short term, we can all see here, and if I get rid of this line here, we can see the channel that it's trying to follow in the upward direction here. And it's been following it pretty accurately. And that's another supporting idea that it's going to come down here. And just for good measure, if I put my fib level here, oops, sorry, wrong one. We can see it's probably going to come down to the 618 to have a look at that again. It's, sorry, my mistake, the 0.5 level. And, even looking at this this retracement here, it will consolidate, it will probably touch the 50, bottom of this channel, and the 618. So everything, I'm looking at, I'm content with leaving my profit target not absolutely fixed yet. I want to see what happens on the news, and I'll make a decision then. Let's go on to some other instruments. So let's have a look at the FTSE. In fact, before I do the FTSE, let's look at the NASDAQ, the US 100. Is it here? UK, US 100. So this is the NASDAQ. And I think a few days ago, we talked about the NASDAQ behaving slightly differently to the S&P and some of the other indexes. And why is that? Well, the charts were telling us that technology, which the NASDAQ 100, is predominantly made up of, broke through this double top. We had some more bullish news coming out on NVIDIA, which is, all about AI, the infrastructure, the computing power, the boards that data centers are looking for to implement AI, is giving NASDAQ strength. So we drew this upward channel a few weeks ago. It's been following this channel. And if I extend this channel, because in fact, I'm going to get a little bit closer because so everybody can see what I'm doing here. So we can see even this upward, longer term upward channel is accelerating. It's obviously finding a little bit of consolidation, but if we look at this particular candlestick here, I might just go down to a smaller time frame. So yesterday, in line with some of the other indices, then we had the NVIDIA news, popped it up, couldn't past this, because they've got the same problem. And another factor on the NASDAQ is Apple. Apple, which I don't have the charts here, has hit a double top. And I think because Apple is such a big constituent of the NASDAQ, Apple has also sort of subdued this sort of, breakout from this level here. So again, very interesting, but I kind of see strength, based upon this bar here. Yes, it might jiggle around a little bit, but I think a break of this level here will propel it past this, this green zone, which was the double top, and really heading, let's go from a weekly perspective. So again, subject to some of the other constituents of the NASDAQ, it will probably come and retest this price action here. So we've got a really nice W price pattern here on the weekly perspective, which is bullish. And so we're really looking, if it can continue breaking out of this area, there's no reason why it can't come and retest these two candlesticks here. So it'll be really interesting to watch the NASDAQ. If we then go back to the UK, obviously different factors affecting the UK index. Let's again do our typical top down. You can see here it's upward channel, hit I think if I go back a little bit further, it's probably hit. Can't really go back much further, just bear me for a second. Sometimes data is limited on this platform here. So if we go to where we are now, we can see prices went up, broke through this double top. Let's put a line here rather than that. Broke through this this level of consolidation, hit it, came down, hit it, came down. Let's make it a bit more accurate for the purists. If I actually come all the way across, so with the FTSE, hit it, came down, couldn't quite make it, continued going down, created a lower low, but more to do probably with liquidity than anything else. Let's have a look here, which is an impetus for strength. Broke through here, didn't even come and retest it, broke all the way down, created this this level here. We're now back. In fact, if I make this a little bit more accurate, so you'll see the fib levels. So here's the low. Charts are not behaving today. So we broke through the 50%, and with this kind of pattern, for me, it's looking weak. Again, dependent on a number of different things. I mean, it may come back and test this 38 fib level here, but it's broke out of this consolidation zone. It may have a go, retest it, or retest this yellow line here, this level, and then probably come back down to this level if weakness persists, which is really down, up, downward channel, back into retesting this area here. So another really interesting pattern. Are there any questions? Let's just see. Yeah, I think anybody who didn't come in, on time, I did cover this trade that I took on gold at the beginning. So if you've missed it, just watch the recording, and he'll show you what I did in terms of coming up with this particular trade idea, where I think it's going to go, etc. So we've looked at gold, we've looked at the FTSE, we've looked at NASDAQ, talked about the strength there. And now I think I'll look at one of the currencies. Let's look at the euro dollar, behaving very similar to gold, but let's do this usual top-down approach. Let me get rid of everything first and see if we can find any trading ideas here. Let's get rid of everything first. Those of you who watch my webinars regularly, you know I always start from a higher time frame, always get rid of my lines. And whilst it may seem laborious to do that, it's actually really important for me, because every time I do it, and it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, I get a fresh perspective on what is happening. So we can see from a weekly perspective, prices came down, bounced up, created, or came back into this sort of consolidation area here, and it's been weak ever since. Let's now go to the daily perspective. I can actually put a line here because I don't think we're going to get anywhere near it, but let's put it in. Then we go to the daily perspective. We can see a number of levels that are important to us. We can see prices came down, bounced, broke through, resistance, consolidation. So there is a good chance that if I draw a level here, so what's happened? We had a big move up, couldn't get past, or came, let me get rid of some of these settings here. It's causing me a few issues. So we had this consolidation area here. Let's just draw that in. It ran back into this consolidation area, rejected it, and now it's coming down. So where could this come back down to? So this is the euro dollar. So we can see from a daily perspective, we've got a couple of levels we need to keep an eye on. We can see it poke through here, support into this consolidation area, came back, bounced off it a couple of times, hit its head 3 times from a daily perspective at the sort of 1.1077 level. And really for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's broken out of this consolidation area here, and it's heading down back into this consolidation area here. So I will do a webinar, I think, on the cycles of the market. So the market does the same thing over and over again. When I use the word markets, I'm using the generic term, instruments, whether it's currencies, commodities, anything really. It only really has 2 moves, right, or 3 moves. It's either going sideways or it's going in an uptrend and a downtrend. If you understand those, 3 cycles, or those 3 states that the market's in, it will help you immensely from, extracting the noise out of the market and focusing really on the key question: are we consolidating or are we in a trend? Right now, we were consolidating. Now we're trending, and it's going to find its way back into this consolidation zone from a daily perspective. And then we start looking at how can we find trading opportunities from our idea. So we can see here, markets consolidated during this period here. In fact, let's just make sure that I explain this properly. So it consolidated here, right? And it broke out of there, retested, as we've shown over and over again, the retest back into consolidation, moved away. And if I now extend this, we're having some issues with my lines today. Whoops. And it's heading back into this level here. And if I draw some, and we're still on a daily perspective, I will drill down a little bit further in a second, but let's just have a look at it. In fact, I will go to 4 hourly, makes it a little bit clearer for us. So now we can see this clear downward channel. And the downward channel is heading to this level of support and back into this consolidation area here. So clearly weakness, right? So we don't just jump in and take short positions. That's not always the right thing to do. What I always do is look for pullbacks. Where are the pullbacks? So we go a little bit further out and we look at where markets consolidated. So I'm going to draw another consolidation area here, right? So we can see that for a period of time, from a 4-hourly perspective, it consolidated, broke out of it, retested, and came back into this area here. So this would have been a trade. I mean, I'm never a proponent of woulda, shoulda, coulda. You know, there was the opportunity. If it's missed, right? Gone. Where is this heading? It's heading into this area here. Obviously subject to fundamental news and all this kind of stuff that goes with that, but that's where it's gonna. So if we had taken this trade, our stop would have been here. And when you join our live trading room, you know, we'll actually take these trades live, and our target will be somewhere in here. So our entry, stop loss, target. We'll explain those more, you know, in the trading room. Are there any requests or questions before I go on to the next section? So we've looked at gold, we've looked at the FTSE, we've looked at NASDAQ, we've looked at Eurodollar. Does anybody want me to look at? I think one of our participants here asked me to look at the CADs, the USD Swiss. And I think when he asked that question, I said, look, no real direction yet because we're in this consolidation here. We're in a downward channel, but we were starting to see strength coming in. Let's make sure I get the channel highlighted and get a little bit more accurate. Might better to go down to the 4-hourly to get a better perspective. So we can see here, consolidated for quite some time. The Swiss is not something I trade at all, really, but it came back, but the same patterns appear, came back, retested, and you know, is this a signal that it wants to get back up into this level here? What is this level here? Support, support, broke support, resistance. So there's a chance that if we break the top of this, anybody's interested in trading this, oops, breaks the top. Okay, I need to use the right drawing tool. Breaks the top of here, then really there's a good level of resistance here, which you need to be careful of. And again, it could come and retest this. So you just need to be a little bit careful when you trade the Swissy anyway. Okay. Are there any questions or requests? Okay, I've got a question here. Can we look at the CAD JPY? Yes, sure. CAD JPY. Let's move this out of the way. CAD. No, I might have to add it in. So let's see if I can find it. CAD JPY. Right, so let's, as per request, CAD JPY, start with a new chart. Completely fresh chart. Hard to see on webinar, so I'm going to just go to a template which will make it all quick. Oops, not that one. Template. Not that. That's it. Right, so the request has been, can we have a look at CAD JPY? The JPY is really interesting because it's been, you know, literally going up. We talked about this pullback trade here, went over to 127 on the fib level, and it's even surpassed that. It's probably heading its way back up to the top of here. So we looked at this, I can't remember if it's last week or the week before, how we use fibs, support, resistance, consolidation zones, channels to get a pretty accurate idea of where this is going. So let's go back to the CAD. Now that we know that JPY, you know, is behaving, it's likely that we'll see some effect on this. So let me start from a weekly perspective. Weekly perspective, we can see a fib here that it's rapidly approaching. It's hit the 50% mark from a weekly perspective. So if we go to the daily, let me just draw some support resistance levels here and obvious ones here. Let's drill down to the daily. You can see that we're in an upward channel. Right, so we've broken through this level of resistance. So prices came down, broke through it, resistance, 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 hit the weekly support, came up against a resistance, hit the weekly support, hit resistance, tried to break through, came to the bottom of the channel, and now it's trying to make its way up towards the 618. So let's see if we can find a pattern that might be able to help us. And what we can see here, so where are our areas of difficulty, right? So we've got some areas here. Right, so let's put the first area here, which is above, just above the 618. So when we have this consolidation area, there's a chance, a probability that it could come back into this area here. Coincidentally, it's at the 618 level. So it could find some resistance there and then come back down. So there's a potential trading opportunity for prices to run into this consolidation zone. We've seen that this 50% level is also important because we can see, I can't extend it, but we'll draw this line here. So if we go across the 50% level, we know this 50% level is important, right? Support, support, support. Hit the weekly resistance, came back down, broke through it, and we're exactly at this point here. So this is a really interesting point here. We're consolidating at an important level from a support resistance level. Support, support, support. Now, is this going to be resistance? If it's resistance, it will continue coming down to the bottom of this channel at the very least. It will test this level here. And while I'm drawing these, they're also marking up areas that if we do take a trade, we can look for, targets, stop losses and what have you. So let's drill down a little bit deeper into the 4-hourly. Here we can see the daily consolidation area, which I think is going to, prices are probably going to come and sort of, find either resistance or some consolidation at this level here. This sharp move up indicates strength. It completely broke away from this resistance here, right? So we had resistance, 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 broke through it, couldn't really get much grip on that, came back down, and then it started in this upward channel, particularly after breaking this support. So what I think is that it will come time, and I think I asked Mr. McDonald last time, are you bullish or bearish on this? Let's see what your view is. Just write it in the chat. Is price going to come and retest the bottom of this channel and this 38 fib level, or is it going to hold the 50 fib level and for a small sort of move of, let's say, a couple of big points to hit this 618 and this consolidation level? Mr. McDonald, if you want to tell us what you think, is it bullish or bearish? Okay, so anyway, upward channel, lots of support resistance being broken, very, very clear chart patterns, very, very easy, to see this. I don't trade the CAD JPY, but it's just behaving in a completely predictable manner. Right, okay, I'm going to move on to the next section of our webinar. We're about 40 odd minutes in. I do need to cover the Zenfinex Plus tools. And the reason why I want to cover that today is because we've got some news coming out at 1:30. So, and by the way, this is a completely free portal. All you've got to do is, register, and you'll get access to this free portal. Why am I interested in this today? Because if I just focus on the high impact news, let's see if it'll show that. So we've got just initial claims, 1:30 UK time. There's a forecast view that it's going to go slightly higher in terms of more jobless claims. But we're more interested in what happened previously. So I use this a lot. So back in May, and the previous to May was 264. They forecasted a 6,000 increase. It actually did better. There was less, basically. So what impact did that have on the British pound or on the US dollar? We've just looked at the US dollar, so let's look at the US dollar. What happened was news was announced, and for the 4-hour period after that, prices fell. Remember, this is May announcement. We've now got the, May 18th announcement. We have another announcement today, and we're going to see what impact that has. If we just look at 1 hour after news, we can see that this particular news can have some quite sharp moves. It's 27 pips on the euro dollar. And from a 4-hourly perspective, it's about 48 pips. So drop, and it continued its move down. I mean, if we looked at the euro chart, we'll see that move actually continuing on. So let me just do that. Let's have a look at the euro dollar chart just to confirm that. Yeah, so this was last week. So if I go to the daily, right, so that news caused this downward momentum in line with the channel, the consolidation. I'm not going to go over that again. But if we have the same kind of impact, there's a good chance that it will come back and test this. So as we discussed earlier, the trade really was a pull back into this 4-hourly consolidation area. Let's go back there. Retested it on its way down. Entry, stop, target. Same thing over and over again. Any more questions? So I think it's bullish, though it will have a pullback first. Mr. McDonald saying about the CAD Swiss. Yeah, it could come and retest this this level here at 38 fib level. It's finding resistance at the 50% fib level, but I think it's heading towards a 618 fib level just for those fib traders. We cover fibs in the live trading room. Let's finish off. I just want to make sure that you were seeing my charts. Yeah, you were seeing my charts. Let's go back to the Zenfinex Plus. So just finishing off the news that's coming out at 1:30 UK time, initial claims. This is what happened last time when actual was less than forecast, which is interesting. We can go back even further, right? We can go back to May the 11th. Higher than forecast, although it had an initial drop, it had an initial pop up, came back down, but actually it finished more or less from a 4-hourly perspective where it started. If we go back to the previous one, which was May the 4th, forecast was 245. It went slightly below forecast, but not by a significant amount, and more or less stayed where, it started basically after 4 hours. Bit of volatility, great for news traders, but, from a slightly longer term perspective, not that useful. The other thing that I want to just quickly cover, we've only got about 5 minutes left. Please feel free to contact me. I'll give you my details in a second. If you want me to help you with anything, in regards to your trading or whatever, it's all free. So don't worry, we're not trying to sell you anything. Gold. So they're saying a pattern from a short-term perspective is a reversal. You'll remember I'm actually in a gold trade here. and I will be watching the news later to see if this pattern is indicating strength or weakness. I'm going to kind of stick to my view. This is probably just like a short-term trade. Let's see. Opportunity recognized May the 25th for a period of up to 12 hours. So they're looking for a short-term pop-up, which I don't disagree with. But I think, subject to the news, I'm sticking with my trade idea. I don't have a lot of time left. We spent a lot of time on the charts, which is, I think, what people want anyway. Let's just go back to the slides and show you how to. I've got another question here. Let me just answer the question. Would love to have your contact. Yeah, please feel free. Here's my email address. Kumar. Oops, wow. Just move my presentation here. Just take a note of or screenshot of this, or watch it on the YouTube video. Happy to receive emails. Happy to look at charts. Anything I can do to help. That's what I'm here for. And those of you who just want to have a look around, what we've covered here is the Zenfinex Plus tools. Go to the this domain. It's free registration. Sign up, and you'll get access to the tools we've just covered very, very briefly today. But I ran out of time. We covered, featured ideas very, very briefly. I have on previous webinars covered those in greater detail, but I think there's more action happening in the charts. So I wanted to, cover that and the trade setup that I have currently already running on a live account. Okay, on that note, just going to check to see if there's any more questions. There isn't. So with the Zenfinex Plus tools, you get not only trade ideas, but you'll understand how other analysts are looking at markets, how they're setting up their trades. I've got my own particular way of doing it. You've seen it over and over again now, top down, weekly, daily, 4 hourly, hourly. Look for consolidation, look for trends, trade with the trend. Make sure you have a protective stop in, and it's as easy as that. On that note, I wish everybody a great trading day, and see you next Tuesday.